Lemon, because something has happened between that, obviously, and now.
Yeah, we are continuing to report on exactly how things got to that point of him being arrested, involving the HSI and the FBI overnight in Los Angeles. But look, the officials that I have talked to here in Minnesota have been the state officials, extremely critical of the handling of not just the ICE operation, not just the killing of Alex, Freddie, and Renee Good, but the agents' participations or the agents' activities against people just trying to document what they're doing, and that includes journalists. We have seen agents who have, pushed journalists or forced them out of the scene, saying that they are impeding with law enforcement activity. There's a great deal of concern here in Minnesota and, of course, across the country, too, with those actions. So yesterday I sat with the prosecutor for the state of Minnesota who is overseeing the investigation into Alex Preddy's killing and Renee Good's killing. And she was very strong with her words about how the federal government is acting. She says that her investigators, the state investigators, are being excluded from the evidence and the investigation, the federal investigation into those killings. She's very concerned, calls it all unprecedented, concerned with the way that that the government is kind of conflicting with the state. And this is all, right now, what we've been covering here, this is all happening as Tom Homan showed up yesterday in Minneapolis and basically changed the tone and said that there would be a scaling back of the amount of agents that are here on the ground if the state cooperates. When you see such a high-profile journalist as Don Lemon, somebody who was an anchor for years at CNN, somebody whose face and name many people recognize in this country, being arrested while he was at a church interviewing the pastor that was being, targeted by the protesters, or, who the protesters showed up to protest. I think you have such a big story, you have such a big concern, such a strong message about the First Amendment. That is what we're hearing from Don Lemon's attorney. We don't know what the charges are. We don't know exactly what Don Lemon's activities were inside that church. But in terms of messaging, go ahead.
Just want to interrupt you momentarily because our Nicole Skanger has just shared with us the specific charges that Mr. Lemon now faces. So we want to share with our viewers what that is. His charges include conspiracy against rights. You're seeing that on your screen, and for violating the FACE Act. Let me just explain what these charges include. On the conspiracy against rights, this statute protects against conspiracies to interfere with rights such as voting, housing, or bodily integrity. For the second charge he faces, this is the FACE Act. That's the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances. This is a charge which forbids using force, threats, or physical obstruction to stop individuals from accessing reproductive health clinics or places of worship. That sounds key. It also prohibits damaging or destroying property at these locations. So, Lilia, now that we know two of the charges that Don Lemon faces, it does appear to be connected to that demonstration in a church from about 6 days ago, which a magistrate judge refused to bring charges at that time. And we know the administration has been pushing since then to appeal and find a way to make something stick. I believe you covered this when it took place a week ago. Lilia, you've been covering so much, I'm not sure, but remind us why the FACE Act itself...
I wasn't here.
Okay, but remind us why the FACE Act would be key.
I wasn't here, but the source who gave me the tip this morning, how we learned for the first time that Don Lemon had been arrested, suggested, he didn't have the warrant, but suggested that it would be connected to the FACE Act, and this seems to be what the government was looking for. It's an interesting charge. Again, we need to, we don't have the evidence. We don't know exactly what happened. But Don Lemon and his attorney and his representatives have said he was there just interviewing the pastor, doing his job as a journalist. For all of us, it's very concerning to think about when we are there covering a protest, which we do constantly. We do all kinds of protests. the actions of the protesters and whatever charges are brought against the protesters, whether or not they are legal, justified, protected by the First Amendment, you don't have that expectation that you are going to be also arrested and charged for being there. We have been tackled, tear gassed in this country and other countries. But when it comes to pressing charges, this is a very serious thing that the government is saying to all of us covering protests, to all of us engaging in journalism and bringing the audience what is happening from the ground, especially when it comes to somebody who is, not as well. He is working as an independent journalist, but somebody who people know as a journalist, who has such a name and a face and is so widely recognized. You really have to consider what is the message that the government is sending, even after multiple courts had refused to file those charges. It's very important for us to understand, and this is something that we've seen the administration do when it comes to immigrants too, that when one state is not friendly to the intention of the government, then they move immigrants to another state. So I'm very curious to know, this grand jury was called yesterday, what kind of evidence they saw. Look, we don't have the evidence, we don't have the facts, we don't know exactly what happened, whether he was obstructing, what he was doing there. But I think the intention, or I think we have to pay very close attention to why this much insistence in bringing charges against Don Lemon, and what is the intention, or what is the message that is sending to all of us who do this for a living, and to the public at large.
And Lilia, I'll just share with you that the consequences of these two charges on the conspiracy against rights, you could have fines and/or up to 10 years in prison, and the freedom of access to clinic entrances, or the FACE Act, a violation of that is a misdemeanor on your first offence, with up to 6 months in prison for non-violent obstruction. Subsequent offences, though, can be categorised as a felony, with penalties increasing up to 18 months for non-violent offences, up to 3 years for violent offences. So serious potential consequences for a former CNN news anchor and independent journalist who was, as you have been doing, covering the incredible events there from the past few weeks. We'll let you go for now, Lilia. We appreciate your reporting as you are there in Minneapolis. Our thanks also to Jake Rosen, who helped us get you information on this, as well as Nicole Skanger, who shared with us moments ago what the specific charges are. Former CNN news anchor and independent journalist Don Lemon arrested last night. He was arrested weeks after covering an anti-ICE demonstration in Minnesota, charged with 2 specific potential violations: conspiracy to deprive rights and a violation of the FACE Act, or interfering by force of someone's First Amendment rights. We're going to gather more information on this in these next few hours and have updates for you throughout the day here on CBS News 24/7. But for now, I'm Errol Barnett. We'll take a very short break and return you to CBS Mornings.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances, where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you